Hello guys! Welcome to Sissygram Genderbender Stories on YouTube. Today, I am bringing you a brand new genderbender story. If you like my voice, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for regular updates. Now, let's start the story. Alex had been struggling in the aftermath of a traumatic event, unable to move on from the loss of Anna, his partner. The sounds of screeching tires and glass shattering haunted him, lingering in his mind as he sat on his worn leather couch, staring at the flickering TV screen without seeing it. A bottle of whiskey lay empty on the coffee table, a reminder of his attempts to dull the pain. It had been weeks since the tragic night, yet time seemed to stand still. The apartment around him was frozen, as though nothing had changed. Anna's jacket still hung over a chair in the kitchen, and her favorite mug sat unwashed in the sink. Alex couldn't bring himself to move anything. To him, disturbing these objects would make her absence even more real, a thought he was terrified to face. Suddenly, a knock at the door broke the silence. At first, Alex ignored it, not wanting company or sympathy, but the knocking continued, more insistent this time. Reluctantly, he dragged himself to the door and opened it, surprised to find his sister Alina standing there. Her face reflected both concern and worry as she took in his disheveled state, unkempt beard, clothes that seemed to have gone unchanged for days. "Oh, Alex," she said softly, pulling him into a tight hug. For a moment, he stiffened, unsure, but then he gave in, letting himself be comforted. When she pulled away, her face was determined. "This can't go on. You need to take care of yourself." Anna wouldn't want this. Alex cut her off sharply. "Don't tell me what she would want. She's gone." She told him he needed to eat, shower, and maybe even consider returning to work. Alex shook his head, retreating back to the couch, muttering, "I can't. Not yet." With a sigh, Alina went to work. She began picking up the empty bottles and takeout containers, clearing the clutter that had overtaken the apartment. She opened the windows to air out the stale room and threw away the trash. The scent of food eventually reached Alex's senses, pulling him from his stupor. Alina set a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of him, telling him to eat. He mechanically picked up the fork and took a few bites, the food tasting like ash in his mouth, but he ate to appease her. "There's more in the fridge," Alina said as she gathered her things to leave. "Promise me you'll eat it," Alex nodded, not meeting her eyes. At the door, Alina paused before speaking again, her voice filled with empathy. "I know it hurts, but you can't give up. Anna loved you so much. She'd want you to keep living." Her words hit Alex like a physical blow, and tears stung his eyes. He turned away from her, hearing the door close softly behind Alina as she left. Alone again, he glanced at a framed photo on the table. A picture of him and Anna from a beach trip, both smiling, carefree. Seeing her face frozen in that happy moment was too much. With a sob, Alex hurled the frame across the room, shattering the glass. Overcome by grief and anger, he stumbled to the bedroom and collapsed onto the unmade bed. Anna's pillow still held traces of her scent, and Alex buried his face in it, letting the tears flow freely. "Why did you leave me?" he whispered brokenly. Exhausted from sleepless nights and drowning in alcohol, he felt himself slipping into unconsciousness. His final thought before drifting off was a desperate wish to see Anna once more, to hold her and tell her how much he loved her. The world seemed to lurch sickeningly, and Alice's eyes snapped open. He was no longer in his bedroom. Instead, he was in a car, gripping the steering wheel, headlights rapidly approaching in the opposite lane. Terror gripped him as he realized what was happening. He was reliving the night of the accident. As the car swerved, Alex tried to regain control, but his body wouldn't respond. He was seeing through Anna's eyes, trapped as a passive observer in her final moments. The car veered off the road, and the impact impact was deafening. Pain flooded through every nerve, followed by darkness. Alex woke with a start, gasping for breath, drenched in sweat. He was back in his bedroom, shaken but alive. It had all been a nightmare, a horrifying vision from his grief-stricken mind. Disoriented, he stumbled to the bathroom to splash cold water on his face. But when he looked in the mirror, he saw Anna's face staring back at him. Shocked, he recoiled, nearly losing his balance. This couldn't be real. This had to be another dream. But when he opened his eyes again, nothing had changed. He still saw Anna's face, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. Unable to comprehend what was happening, Alex reached up to touch her face. It felt soft, feminine, and strangely familiar, yet utterly foreign. He looked down at his body, noticing the curves and contours, and whispered, "This isn't possible." Anna's voice emerged from his mouth, and as he struggled with the overwhelming sensation of being in her body, memories that weren't his flooded his mind. He saw Anna's childhood, her first kiss, moments from her life that Alex had never experienced. Most powerfully, he remembered their time together, their first date, lazy mornings in bed. Overwhelmed by these sensations, Alex collapsed onto the floor, trying to make sense of it all. At first, he wanted to panic, to fight against this inexplicable reality, but the grief and longing that had consumed him gave way to something else, a surreal sense of calm. Somehow, impossibly, he was inside Anna's body, experiencing her memories and feelings in a way he never could have before. This was his chance to be close to her again, to understand her fully. With newfound resolve, Alex rose to his feet and walked back to the bedroom. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Anna's phone began to ring, and Alex picked it up, his trembling fingers noticing his own name on the caller ID. He hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello? Hey, beautiful," his voice replied from the other side, warm and affectionate. It was the day of the accident, the last conversation they'd ever had. Alex felt the lump in his throat as he spoke, remembering that conversation vividly. "I can't wait," he said, speaking for Anna as she had to him that day, her excitement shining through. "I've got a surprise for you," he added with a smile. On the other end, Anna's voice teased, asking for a hint. Alex chuckled softly, remembering how she'd sounded that day. The moment was so familiar, but it hurt all the more because it was a moment forever lost. As he ended the call, a wave of grief overtook him. Anna had died before they could enjoy that dinner, before Alex could know what the surprise was. Driven by sorrow and curiosity, Alex sifted through her memories, discovering that Anna had been at a jewelry store, buying a watch Alex had been eyeing for months, but couldn't justify purchasing. She had been so excited to give it to him, to celebrate his recent promotion. The realization hit Alex hard. Anna had died while buying him a gift. But just as quickly as that thought struck him, another thought came. Anna had never blamed him for any of it. He knew this with an unshakable certainty, and the voice in his head was Anna's own, telling him it wasn't his fault. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening startled Alex. He froze in place, unsure of what was happening. He heard his own voice calling out, "You home early." The confusion intensified as he saw himself standing in the doorway, just as he had that day. His past self, unaware of what was coming, crossed the room and placed a gentle hand on Anna's forehead, noticing she seemed warm. Alex watched this version of himself with tears in his eyes. The other Alex left the room, and Anna sat on the bed, overwhelmed by the tenderness of the moment. But as time passed, he realized he wasn't experiencing some kind of time travel. He was merely reliving this day, unable to change anything. It was about preventing the accident, but understanding it, finding closure. The moment of peace was fleeting. When the other Alex returned, ready to help Anna get some rest. Alex had one last chance to say something to him, something he knew he might never have the opportunity to say again. "I love you," he whispered, pouring all of Anna's love into the words so much. "Never forget that." The other Alex smiled softly, the warmth of the moment overwhelming Alex. As the door closed behind him, Alex curled up on the bed, consumed by grief and love. The hours passed, and Alex drifted in and out of consciousness, lost in memories. The next day, a phone call interrupted his thoughts. It was Anna's mother, asking if Anna could run an errand for her. Alex recognized the significance, the errand that had led Anna onto the road that fateful night. But he knew this was a memory, something that couldn't be altered. Still, he couldn't help but wish things could be different. Anna headed out, and Alex, now in her body, felt the deep ache of loss. He drove to the pharmacy, aware that the accident was coming. When it happened, the pain was just as sharp as the nightmare had been, but this time it was just Anna's sorrow. It was the grief she felt for Alex, for the life they would never have together. With a gasp, Alex woke up once again, in his own body, back in his empty apartment. For a moment, he wondered if it had all been a dream, a product of his grief. But when he looked in the mirror, he saw something had changed. The deadness in his eyes had faded, replaced by something new: acceptance, understanding, and a glimmer of hope. Anna's love still lived within him, and he knew she wouldn't want him to waste away in grief. Taking a deep breath, Alex reached for his phone and called his sister. "Alina," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I think I am ready for that help now." The weight of grief still lingered, but for the first time, Alex felt like he could take the first step toward healing. It wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to try. This is where the story ends. I spend hours of effort creating these kinds of stories, so if you're new to this channel, please hit the like button and subscribe my Sissygram Genderbender Stories YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to comment on what you would do if you were in his place. I'm eagerly waiting for your comments, and I personally read all of them. Okay, guys, thanks for joining. And I'll see you in the next story in the next video. Take care and bye.